On behalf of Estudio de Comunicación, owner of this event, our strategic partners, BNP Paribas, Exane BNP Paribas, our sponsors, Grant Thornton, Endesa, Cecabank, and Prisa, and our collaborators, BME, OBME, SIX, ICEX, Invest in Spain, Equipo Económico, AON, Instituto de Crédito Oficial, Linklaters, and the Ayuntamiento de Madrid, thank you all for your attendance. We especially thank Your Majesty, the King of Spain, Honorary President of the Spain Investors Day, for presiding over today's opening ceremony online. For safety reasons and following the required restrictions from the COVID-19 pandemic, this event has multiple venues this year. The institutional events will take place at this auditorium. Face-to-face meetings between investors and companies will be held at BNP Paribas Central Office in Spain, and one-to-one meetings will be held online from the offices of the 46 Spanish companies and the over 200 investors from 14 different countries participating in this event. The opening ceremony begins with the Mayor of Madrid, Mr. José Luis Martínez Almeida, with whom we now connect in his office at the Madrid City Hall. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning, señor Ministra de Industria, Comercio y Turismo, Ministro de Inclusión, Seguridad Social y Migraciones, Secretaria de Estado de Comercio y Presidenta de ICEX, Presidenta y miembros del Consejo Rector de Spain Investors Day, Presidenta de BNP Paribas en España, autoridades, patrocinadores, señoras y señores. Your Majesty, on behalf of all of us, I would like to deeply thank you for your participation and support to this prestigious economic forum, Spain's Investors Day, in this 11th edition. Your honorary presidency is a sign of your commitment with our entrepreneurs and economic sector, the engine of our country. Your words, Majesty, today, in time of economic uncertainty, contribute to strengthen the confidence in our economy and business sector, as you represent the stability of our country and of our democratic institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give you a warm welcome to Madrid. Madrid feels very proud to host this great meeting once again. The storm Filomena hasn't allowed me to be there with you as I would have wished, but I hope you understand that the city demands now full-time commitment to restore its normality. Certainly, we are living tough moments in the capital of Spain. The worst snowstorm and cold wave in decades has hit Madrid in the middle of the worst world pandemic in a century. Our emergency services are working hard since last Friday, helping citizens and removing snow, ice, and tree branches from our streets. And at the same time, our health professionals work restlessly every day in our hospitals to fight the pandemic. Everyone is doing the best. And I would like to thank one more the people of Madrid for their solidarity and civic behavior. Hard times require hard work, and hard work requires determination. The people of Madrid and Spain meet both qualities, a strong working capacity and faith in our future. Today, we are suffering the crisis caused by the pandemic, and unlike previous crises, it arises from a unusual economic slowdown consequence of our efforts to combat coronavirus. But we are fully confident that we will overcome this crisis soon, as we did with the one that was running when this forum held its first edition 11 years ago. Now, from the institutional level, it's our time to give support to entrepreneurs and companies, to boost our economy, and to help our society to recover its activity. And we must remember that a crisis is always an opportunity for talent and innovation. Before coronavirus, we began the transition to a green, digital, and inclusive economy. Today, that path becomes the main lever for growth. Spain and Madrid in particular have great opportunities to offer to national and foreign investors. The IBEX 35 is the third stock exchange in European Union. We have top-level infrastructure. Madrid is strategically connected through flights, roads, and high-speed trains, and offers a large hotel capacity and an excellent supply of industrial and commercial areas. Barajas International Airport is the main connection with Latin America from Europe. The World Travel Awards 2020 have recognized Madrid for the second time the most attractive destination for congresses and meetings, and also did the World MICE Awards 2020, in which Spain's capital was named Europe's best MICE destination, and IFEMA, the world's best convention center. IFEMA leads the ranking of international trade fairs in Spain. Thanks to IFEMA, we can organize very important events. For example, we could host the 25th Climate Change Conference within only 1 month. Nowadays, Madrid represents 20% of the Spanish GDP and tops the GDP regional ranking in Spain. We are the most enterprising and dynamic city in Spain, as 16% of new companies are created here, and 2/3 of foreign investments in Spain lands in Madrid. We are a business-friendly city with low taxes, and even in the current situation, we receive international investment. Recently, there has been opened a Four Seasons hotel in the center of Madrid. Above all, this city council will cooperate with the private sector to promote the development and modernization of our city. Today, dialogue and collaboration are needed more than ever. We are running initiatives like Madrid Futuro, with more than 50 great firms and institutions working together in projects to boost our city and to devise its future. And in this line, we are prepared to apply the European Next Generation funds. Madrid has a future plenty of projects. Our talent, optimism, and hard work can overcome all setbacks and obstacles. This is why Madrid is always a safe bet. To conclude, ladies and gentlemen, please let me wish you a successful 11th edition of Spain Events today. I hope that companies and investors will have a very productive event and will reach great investment grants. Majesty, thank you for your affection and constant support. It encourages us to continue doing our best for Madrid and for Spain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. It is now the turn for the President of BNP Paribas in Spain, Cecilia Bonet. Cecilia.
Your Majesty, Mrs. Minister of Industry, Trade and Tourism, Mr. Minister of Inclusion, Social Security and Migrations, Mr. Mayor of Madrid, Mrs. Secretary of State of Trade, authorities, investors, dear friends, good morning. We at BNP Paribas and Exane BNP Paribas are very honored to welcome you to this 11th edition of the Spain Investors Day. Last year, during the 10th anniversary of this event, we were celebrating the good health of the Spanish economy precisely 10 years after the tough economic and financial crisis that hit our country. This year, the context obviously has substantially evolved due to the COVID-19 pandemic that we are all facing. If we stick to its economic impact, it is clear that the sanitary crisis has revealed some of the endemic frailties of our productive structure. Our higher reliance on tourism and restaurant sectors, the high proportion of very small SMEs, or the low level of investment in research and development. No doubt that the recovery plan designed by the government and funded by the EU should be an opportunity to mitigate those structural weaknesses, with a 72 billion euros investment plan mainly aimed at green and digital projects. But Spain is a country of contrasts and relies on some very strong assets that turn out key for a modern and sustainable growth. Its domestic banking sector, which has been absolutely crucial in distributing liquidity to the economic agents during the crisis, it is healthy, largely digital, and counts on clear European leaders. It has also initiated the banking consolidation that several other European economies still need. Spain benefits from a very good level of digitalization, above European average, and is by far one of the most advanced countries in fiber development. Lastly, Spain has been able to develop strong industries like renewable energies, telecom infrastructure, infrastructure management, and counts on world-leading companies in these areas. The investments from these groups have remained solid despite the negative environment, and the investment plans for the coming years are still very ambitious. You will be able to ascertain all this during this edition of the Spain Investors Day. We will gather in the coming 2 days 46 listed companies that will share their strategy with investors, both in one-to-ones and in plenary sessions. 250 investors, 2 times last year's number, will attend, mainly from abroad, UK, France, Switzerland, the US, Canada. And new this year is the digital format. I have to say, luckily, since due to the snowstorm, I think we would have been suffering a little bit to maintain the program. Again, we are very pleased to welcome you. I hope you will enjoy the gathering, find it of interest for you, and thank you again for being with us this morning. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for the kind invitations to share with you a few thoughts about how I envisage our work after a year in government, in a year that I have to admit that it has been anything but a normal one. The prime objective of the Ministry for Inclusion, Social Security and Migration is to engender cohesion and certainty for economic agencies and Spanish society as a whole. Modern economics and empirical evidence show that this is a very important ingredient for sustained growth. To achieve this goal, about a year ago, we put forward a number of national agreements on 3 key areas. First, pensions, to make the system sufficient, sustainable, and more equitable. Second, inclusive policies, to substantially reduce poverty and social exclusion. And third, migration, to foster regular immigration to match the needs of the Spanish labor market. The first 2 agreements have already been sealed with overwhelming majorities in the Spanish Parliament. The third one, the Pact for Migration, remains a major goal going forward. Cross-party cooperation is the most effective way of making sound social and economic policies endurable and framing them in an appropriate medium-term orientation. On top of these 3 elements, other short-term, and this is clear to everyone, other short-term priorities came to the fore over the year as the extremely acute health emergency triggered by the coronavirus required a set of bold and far-reaching policies to be devised. Those policies were aimed at protecting jobs, firms, and the self-employed, all impinged on by the lockdown and subsequent measures constraining economic activity. Let me briefly go through these areas in which the ministry has been particularly proactive: pension reform, social inclusion policies, and crisis management of the pandemic from an economic and social standpoint. As far as the pension reform is concerned, we are busy at present pinning down some elements and drafting and passing legislation to comply with the recommendations made to the government by Parliament following the historic consensus I just mentioned. Some measures have already been implemented with the approval of the new budget last year, including a new fiscal framework and accompanying instruments to promote collective pension plans, as yet really underdeveloped in Spain. Other measures are currently being negotiated with trade unions and business representatives. One driving force of our reforms is securing the long-term sustainability of the system under the principles of intergenerational solidarity and fiscal responsibility. Spain is already in a very good starting position to deal with the challenges posed by the retirement in the coming decades of the baby boom generation. The 2011 reform set out a time schedule to progressively raise the legal age retirement to 67 years. By 2027, it is 66 at present. Building on that, we are working on a wide array of measures to ensure that the effective requirement age moves closer to legal retirement one. This will be achieved by reforming early and postponed retirement schemes. Here there is indeed, I would say, a great deal of room for improvement. As regards inclusion policies, this year we have introduced, I must add, with unanimous support in Parliament, a long-needed national minimum income scheme, very much requested over here by European authorities, designed to eradicate extreme poverty and facilitate a transition to full participation in society for those in a situation of vulnerability. 500,000 recipients already benefited directly from this new policy. I like to describe the minimum income scheme not as a benefit, but rather as a set of policies articulated around one. It is an example of a new generation of social policies, not linked directly to the status of unemployment, but instead to the new vulnerabilities of our societies, which can take different forms. With a targeted approach, we have worked on a case-by-case basis to consider the specificities of each recipient. We see that as a real innovation policy and as a driver that will activate and upskill an important segment of labor force and dynamize the Spanish economy more generally. Moreover, by contributing to a more cohesive and inclusive society, it will play a crucial role in making Spain more attractive for investment. Looking ahead, this year we will start deploying inclusive itineraries for beneficiaries and evaluating how successful these accompanying policies are in providing opportunities for the worst off. Furthermore, our aim is to extend this new minimum income scheme to other social protection schemes to make them more targeted and incentive-driven. Concerning our crisis management of the pandemic from an economic and social standpoint, we recognize from the very outset that by restricting activities and preventing social interactions, the economy would take a severe hit. But we also recognized the temporary nature of this crisis. Once the pandemic has been brought under control, economic activity would be able to resume. The basis premise has two important implications. First, we have to intervene swiftly to avoid a sudden, deep, but in the end, temporary shock, causing any major structural damage in our economic fabric. We had to particularly hibernate the economy to make sure it will be ready to grow in the post-pandemic growth. As a result, a raft of measures in support of firms and the self-employed were launched. Our measures were particularly targeted and featured well-designed incentives for the activation of inactive workers as soon as conditions permitted. We witnessed a robust recovery of activity in the third quarter of last year, when the health situation improved, and a milder one in the fourth quarter against a backdrop of a new wave of the pandemic. This had made us reasonably optimistic about the efficacy of this set of policies and confident about the growth prospects in 2021. Now that we are starting to glimpse the end of the pandemic. Second, we have made sure that, unlike in the past, a fall in economic activity would not translate automatically into an even larger drop in employment. This was indeed a serious risk. The lesson learned from the previous crisis is that hysteresis effects are real and that they do make a crisis longer and more painful. A new and flexible furlough model negotiated permanently with employers and unions was deployed to avoid layoffs by firms and foster activation once the health conditions improved. Allow me to mention that we are now very, very close to an agreement on the extension of the furlough scheme for the coming months. Given the uneven impact of the crisis across sectors and the deployment of the vaccine as a shining light at the end of the tunnel, a surgical and targeted approach in the short term is again warranted. Even though the furlough scheme together with the self-employed protection scheme have had a huge reach, they protected more than 1 out of every 4 workers at the peak of the crisis, thanks, partially at least, to their design. The budgetary cost of preventing a massive unemployment crisis has been relatively contained. What is more, they have been instrumental in absorbing the economic shock, not only for large and industrial firms, the ones for which the German Kurzarbeit program was originally decided, but in our case, especially for SMEs, and with a particular portion, I would say, in the service sector. I view this as a major success, not fully foreseen at that time. Thanks to these schemes, we have now more workers on open-ended contracts and more self-employed workers than before the pandemic. Going forward, our major challenge is how to learn from these experiences, using them to transform our labor market and correct its structural weaknesses. Most notably, its degree of precariousness and the recourse to temporary employment contracts as the major lever that firms use to adjust to demand conditions. The successful experience of this new furlough model has shown us that there are efficient ways of making our labor market both more flexible and more equitable. We will adjust the model to make it a structural element of our labor market. In this regard, a permanent forklift scheme, together with other labor market policies, will become an intrinsic component as an accompanying reform of the Recovery, Transformation and Resilience Plan that the Spanish government is finalizing to submission to the European Commission. Likewise, the pension reform and the development of modern inclusive policies will be part of this plan. I am convinced that by combining efficient and targeted public policies and investment with accompanying reforms, this plan is a great opportunity to boost economic growth in the short term and make the Spanish economy more productive, inclusive, and resilient over the medium term. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Escrivá. It is now the turn for the Minister of the Industry, Trade and Tourism, Reyes Maroto. Ms. Maroto, yours is the floor.
Good morning, Your Majesty, authorities, business representatives. I would like to begin my speech by thanking to the organization of the Spain Investors Day for the opportunity to address you all for the 3 consecutive years, which have contained of the collaboration of ICEX Invest in Spain 1 more year. This event has 11 years of history and has become an essential meeting for an increasing number of Spanish companies, many of them global leaders in this respective sector, but also international investors who have a magnificent opportunity to learn about the strong and opportunities to Spain offer at the country to develop future investment. The year's event is of great importance because we are all public and private sector can afford to work together to mitigate the negative effects of the COVID. It's having in our economy and society and to lay to the foundation of recovery. It's time to a stronger public collaboration to implement the plan for recovery, transformation and resilience. A joint project for the country that outlines a roadmap for the modernization of the Spanish economy, the recovery of economic growth and job creation for the solid, inclusive and resilient economic reconstruction after the COVID crisis, and to respond to the challenge of the next year. A plan will mobilize 72 billion euros over the next 3 years. I will accelerate 4 transformations that the government has explained to the Center of Economic Policy Strategy from the outset: the ecological transition, the digital transformation, gender equality, and social and territorial cohesion. El filósofo y escritor Miguel de Unamuno decía hace más de 100 años que el progreso consiste en el cambio. Estarán de acuerdo conmigo en que esta cita está hoy plenamente vigente, porque la pandemia ha acelerado algunos cambios que hubieran tardado años en producirse, como el teletrabajo, la teleasistencia sanitaria, la educación o el comercio online. Y tenemos que afrontar estos cambios como parte de nuestro progreso. La ciudadanía española y las empresas habéis estado a la altura del desafío que está suponiendo abordar la crisis sanitaria que dura ya 10 meses y aunque todavía quedan meses muy duros, con la llegada de las vacunas estamos en el principio del fin. Aunque nos movemos en un entorno de elevada incertidumbre, debemos ser optimistas respecto al futuro. Y este foro es una extraordinaria oportunidad para proporcionar a los agentes económicos seguridad y certidumbre y generar confianza, 3 ingredientes necesarios para reactivar nuestra economía. Iniciamos el año 2021 con algunas certezas que contribuyen a mejorar nuestras perspectivas de recuperación. La primera y más importante es la disponibilidad de vacunas frente al COVID, que permite mejorar las perspectivas de recuperación para la economía mundial y española en los 2 próximos años. La OCDE así señala en su último informe que la economía mundial podría entrar en una senda gradual de recuperación en los próximos años, con un crecimiento anual en torno al 4% para 2021. También para 2021 es un año para la recuperación de la economía española y, según nuestras previsiones, crecerá entre el 7 y el 9,8% si consideramos el impacto de los fondos europeos. La segunda certeza es el acuerdo sobre el Brexit, que pone fin a 4 años y medio de intensas negociaciones, pero que sobre todo ha conseguido que la Unión Europea salga reforzada. Ahora es el momento de mirar al futuro y avanzar hacia una Europa más fuerte y unida. La tercera certeza es la victoria de Biden en Estados Unidos, que representará sin duda un cambio en algunos asuntos de política económica y comercial, como la reforma de la Organización Mundial del Comercio, un asunto que es una prioridad para la nueva etapa de relaciones transatlánticas. Además, se espera una rápida incorporación americana al Acuerdo de París sobre el clima, lo que sin duda abrirá la puerta a una mayor cooperación transatlántica en esta materia. Y la última certeza es la aprobación de los presupuestos generales del Estado para el 2021, que constituyen sin duda un instrumento imprescindible para la reactivación económica, ya que incorporan 27.000 millones de euros del plan de recuperación. Los presupuestos, además de reforzar las medidas para la lucha contra la pandemia, incluyen potentes instrumentos para reactivar la economía y afrontar el futuro con seguridad, certidumbre y confianza. El Ministerio de Industria, Comercio y Turismo que dirijo juega un papel muy relevante en una de las prioridades que tiene el Gobierno para esta legislatura: sentar las bases para la recuperación de nuestro modelo productivo, dado que las 3 áreas sectoriales que comprende industria, comercio y turismo inciden de manera directa en el crecimiento y en la creación de empleo. Brevemente, me gustaría trasladarles las prioridades que van a marcar el futuro próximo en las áreas que son de mi competencia. En lo relativo a la industria, la prioridad del Gobierno es incrementar su peso en nuestra economía con el convencimiento de que constituye un elemento clave para la mejora de nuestro modelo productivo. Estamos trabajando en la elaboración de la Estrategia de Política Industrial 2030, que constituye la hoja de ruta para reforzar el peso de la industria en nuestra economía, impulsando la doble transición verde y digital. También, a lo largo de la legislatura, queremos impulsar un pacto por la industria y una nueva ley de industria. Y en el ámbito de la gran industria, el Gobierno ha aprobado iniciativas tan relevantes como el Estatuto del Consumidor Electrointensivo o el Fondo Español de Reserva para las Garantías de Entidades Electrointensivas. En relación al apoyo a las pymes y los emprendedores, ya contamos con el marco estratégico de la PYME 2030 y se han reforzado los instrumentos de apoyo financiero a través de NISA, de CERSA y la puesta en marcha de la plataforma PYME. Al mismo tiempo, se está trabajando en el impulso de la transformación digital de las pymes, que es, como saben, uno de los ejes de la Agenda España Digital 2025. En cuanto al comercio, vamos a continuar apoyando el comercio de proximidad en su recuperación tras la pandemia y a lo largo del 2021 se promoverá su innovación, competitividad, el uso de nuevas tecnologías por parte del sector comercial, favoreciendo así su adaptación a los nuevos hábitos de consumo y mejorando la gestión de su modelo de negocio. En materia de internacionalización, vamos a reforzar las capacidades e instrumentos de nuestro sistema español para apoyar la internacionalización de las empresas españolas y mejorar nuestro clima de negocios para atraer inversiones a nuestro país. El sector exportador será, como lo fue en la crisis anterior, un pilar clave de la recuperación de nuestra economía en la era post-COVID. Otra de nuestras prioridades es promover la inversión extranjera en España a través del ICES Invest in Spain, que acaba de lanzar un nuevo portal, una nueva herramienta más moderna y funcional que permite al inversor extranjero acceder de una manera sencilla a los servicios y programas de Invest in Spain para facilitar la implementación de compañías internacionales en España. Me gustaría destacar que el nuevo portal cuenta con nuevas secciones enfocadas a inversores de áreas geográficas específicas como China DES o LATAM DES, pero también secciones de carácter transversal que muestran todo nuestro potencial del ecosistema español de emprendimiento, innovación y sostenibilidad. Y para acabar, en el ámbito turístico estamos trabajando en la puesta en marcha del Plan de Modernización y Competitividad del Sector Turístico, que tiene como prioridad mantener el liderazgo de España en competitividad turística y contribuir a la reactivación del sector y la modernización de toda su cadena de valor. Debemos aprovechar la crisis generada por la pandemia como una oportunidad para acelerar la transformación del modelo turístico, incorporando como palancas la digitalización y la sostenibilidad en su triple dimensión: ambiental, socioeconómica y territorial. El plan desarrolla 5 ámbitos de actuación estratégicos: la transformación del modelo turístico hacia la sostenibilidad, el desarrollo de producto turístico y modernización del ecosistema, la apuesta decidida por la digitalización y la inteligencia turística, estrategias de resiliencia turística para territorios extrapeninsulares y un conjunto de actuaciones específicas para mejorar el ámbito de la competitividad. I would like to finish with one last idea. Spain offers important opportunities and an accepted country project to invest in the coming years. This project reflects a vision of a Spain of the future with the desired objective of advance to the modernization of our economy, undertaking to necessary changes in our productive model to make it more sustainability, digital, and resilience. The companies and investors present here today are not only leaders of their respective sector, but are also examples of social commitment to the future of the country, the government and country, on all of you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister. We have now the honor of having His Majesty the King of Spain officially opening this forum from his office at the Zarzuela Palace. Good morning, Your Majesty.
Greetings to all of you. Good morning, Minister of Industry, Commerce and Trade and Tourism, Minister of Social Inclusion and Social Security and Migrations, Mayor of Madrid, President of Consejo Rector del Spain Investors Day, President of BNP Paribas in Spain, ladies and gentlemen, authorities, organizers, participants. Quiero comenzar mi intervención saludando afectuosamente a todas las personas que de manera presencial o de manera telemática están hoy con nosotros en estas circunstancias sin duda difíciles a causa de la pandemia y también de las condiciones meteorológicas que están afectando intensamente a gran parte de España y a esta querida ciudad de Madrid. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to greet all the participants in this Spain Investors Day, including naturally those that are connected online from other countries. As you know, we are enduring an added challenge to the global pandemic after a highly unusual and heavy snowstorm and icy cold conditions that hit us this past weekend. I am glad that this event has kept its course amidst all the difficulties. So congratulations, first of all, to the organizers, and I am very happy to welcome you all, unfortunately from a distance, to this 11th edition of the Spain Investors Day. Allow me just a few more words to address in Spanish the current circumstances. Me gustaría felicitar a los organizadores por celebrar y mantener hoy esta prestigiosa nueva edición del Spain Investors Day, particularmente en unas circunstancias muy difíciles cuando los desplazamientos y la movilidad plantean serias complicaciones, tanto por la pandemia como por la inusual e intensa tormenta de nieve y las inéditas heladas que afectan a una gran parte de nuestro país. Probablemente Madrid y su entorno estén entre las zonas más golpeadas y la vida cotidiana se ha convertido en un verdadero desafío. Todo ello sin mencionar los daños materiales y los problemas sociales derivados de la tormenta. Junto a la reina Leticia quiero trasladar nuestra cercanía, nuestro apoyo a todos los que han sufrido pérdidas y se han visto seriamente afectados por este temporal, y especialmente a las familias de los que desgraciadamente han fallecido. Además, deseamos agradecer muy especialmente y felicitar a los hombres y mujeres de nuestros servicios de emergencia nacionales, de comunidades autónomas y municipales, de protección civil, a nuestras Fuerzas Armadas, a los cuerpos y fuerzas de seguridad del Estado, a los voluntarios en general y a todos aquellos que han dedicado sus esfuerzos y solidaridad para garantizar evacuaciones, atención médica y los suministros durante estos últimos días. También a todos aquellos que siguen ayudando en las labores de limpieza y de restablecimiento de la actividad cotidiana. Confío en que pronto podamos recuperarnos plenamente de este nuevo desafío y estoy seguro de que las autoridades competentes están haciendo todo lo posible para lograrlo. I now turn back the focus to today's event. The Spain Investors Day continues to sail steady and firm, consolidating its position and relevance as one of the key dates in Spain's business calendar. I am delighted to return for the third time to this forum in which I proudly chair its honorary committee. In 2021, an event of this nature intended to attract investment for the Spanish economy, for the full potential of our companies or new projects to flourish, it is more necessary than ever. The COVID-19 pandemic has placed significant constraints on investors and companies all over the world, prompting an unprecedented contraction in economic activity and therefore significantly undermining the profitability and the financial position of many firms. Like other countries, Spain is suffering the severe consequences of the downturn triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, neither the virus nor the economic crisis are going to bring us down. Even in the current circumstances, the highly developed Spanish business sector continues to act with great strength and dynamism. There is a large number of top-of-the-line Spanish companies established all over the world and with international acclaim in many industries, from infrastructure and renewable energy to medicine, biotech, and pharmaceuticals, also automobile industry, fashion, tourism and culture, financial services, or software and communications. Spanish companies have the necessary experience and capacity to become partners in all kinds of international projects throughout the world. As you well know, this is the case of Spanish companies present here today, were leaders in their sectors that showcase perfectly well Spain's strong capabilities. These and other Spanish companies have original and patented technology, renowned brands, valuable experience, and international distribution networks. However, let me add something especially important for the purpose of this forum. Our companies are also accumulating cutting-edge technology, invaluable business expertise, outstanding talent, and the proper values that make them strong and reliable partners for the innovation and sustainability route that we all need to take for the coming years. Furthermore, the Spanish market has numerous structural strengths that make it a very attractive destination for international investors, not the least being that foreign companies find here an attractive domestic market with 47 million potential consumers. Moreover, Spain offers foreign investors a privileged access to third markets intensely connected to our economy and to the outreach of our corporations that may well be of particular interest. In fact, there is still huge potential to serve here as a platform for international businesses operations in third countries. Spain, as a member of the EU, offers entrepreneurs coming from non-EU countries the opportunity of easy access to the world's biggest free market area. Furthermore, our geographical location allows access to markets in the Mediterranean region, Northern Africa, and Middle East. And more importantly, of course, its very special business, economic, historic, and linguistic ties to Latin America also make the case for highly sustainable and attractive access to all of these countries. This is possible, among other factors, because companies established in Spain have guaranteed favorable access to all international markets and to all places of our national territory, thanks to the modern network of infrastructures that is available. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Report, Spain is the 7th country in the world with the best transport infrastructure at a global level. This reality is the one foreign investors can expect to find in Spain, and all these factors are structural strengths of our business climate. They were here before COVID-19, and they will still be here once we overcome the challenges we are facing today. Spain continues to be firmly committed to the idea that economic development, and hence the economic and social well-being of its citizens, largely depends on the country being open, active, and dynamic at the international level. If we study in detail the profiles of businesses that go international, we can well see that, generally speaking, they expand, they create more jobs, and they increase their financial capacity and improve their access to capital markets. In short, they become more dynamic, more competitive, and more efficient. In a nutshell, more resilient, certainly a big and pertinent word for these difficult times. A firm that is more international and more competitive relates to two sides of the same coin, two clearly linked concepts. Internationalized firms are better equipped to face difficulties, they are more prone to innovate, and are more capable to survive cycle fluctuations, as they can rely on a diversified market portfolio. Now, if we take the case of Spain and our economy's international outreach, we cannot focus solely, despite its huge significance, on the importance of our companies opening up to foreign markets. We must also acknowledge the remarkable role played by foreign companies that are established on Spanish territory. Spain is the 11th largest FDI, foreign direct investment recipient in the world. According to the latest data available from the registry of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Tourism, more than 16,000 foreign companies operate currently in our country, representing almost 500 billion euros of stock investment and more than 1.5 million people employed. The FDI we receive not only contributes to financing the economy, it also brings valuable things like diversification, knowledge, and increased technological development to our national business community, particularly in sectors with great added value. Foreign investment also has a strong impact by significantly increasing Spain's export capacity, especially in sectors such as the auto and chemical industries. According to national statistics, 43.7% of Spanish export originate in subsidiaries of foreign companies. These figures testify to the importance of foreign investments in our country. Foreign companies established in Spain are also, therefore, great ambassadors of our own country. For this reason, what I would like to convey you today is very simple, very clear. You can rely on Spain. Have confidence in Spain. Confidence in a modern and solid nation full of creativity and open to the world. Thank you again for participating here today, and my gratitude as well to the awesome lineup of speakers that will take part during these 2 days of meetings. For all I have expressed to you this morning, I have no doubt that Spain holds a preferential investment destination for all of your projects. Por lo expuesto hoy en este acto de inauguración, quiero concluir afirmando y subrayando que España es y seguirá siendo, sin duda, un destino preferente de inversión para todos vuestros proyectos. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. And now it is, of course, my great pleasure and honor to declare open this 11th edition of Spain Investors Day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Majesty, not only for your words, but for all your support and commitment. The opening ceremony has now concluded. Thank you all for your presence here and your online attendance. We would like to inform you that the Spain Investors Day working sessions will start at 10 o'clock with a roundtable on socially responsible investment by listed companies. This will be held in this same auditorium. All those present here who want to attend may remain seated, and those who are connected may remain in line. Thank you very much for attending the opening event of the 11th edition of the Spain Investors Day.